Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Ian Stevenson here again. Hopefully, in the last video on my garage workbench, I whet your appetite for the rather powerful program of Sketchup. A little bit of history with Sketchup, or at least my history with it. I started using Sketchup around 2006 when my brother introduced me to it, and I fell in love pretty much immediately, and I even used it on some engineering for graduate work when I was in graduate school, trying to engineer a modified X-ray fluorescence spectrometer. But anywho, um, in this segment of today's video, we are going to walk you through how to acquire SketchUp, or at least how to get your feet wet in it. And so we're going to do that from two different avenues. So the first one I'm going to show you is how to download SketchUp so that you can use it offline in the event that you have a poor internet connection at home. Maybe you can go to a cafe or McDonald's or something like that where you got free Wi-Fi and you can download it there and then use it at home offline. So we'll go ahead and start with that. And so we just go to www.sketchup.com, and this is the home page for SketchUp. Kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that, the functionalities of it. And as you can see, SketchUp is a pretty legit program. It is well beyond in capability, well beyond what you need as a woodworker, but it's very powerful and capable. It's originally a Google product. They're the ones that came up with it. I have no idea when originally, but they sold it to this company, Trimble, I think around 2018. And when it was in Google's tenure, it was all download version. There was no web-based platform for it. However, when Trimble acquired it, they took it to the web-based platform, and it seemed like that was the only option available, which I frankly did not like. I wanted a desktop application. So you can search around here all stinking day, and I have not been able to find where I can download SketchUp for a desktop application. Well, after a little bit of research, excuse me, I found that you go to sketchup.com/download/all, and well, you're seeing this screen a little bit early is because I'm already signed into my Trimble account. But normally when you enter that web address, it will prompt you to sign into your Trimble account. If you do not already have one, you can just create one using your Google ID. If you're watching YouTube, there's a pretty good chance you have a Google ID. So you can sign in with that. That's what I did. And the options that you have here, these are all pro versions, except for the viewer, which is useless. You can just look at things. We don't want those. We want SketchUp Make 2017. So that would be the one that you download. The application that I was using was actually 2015 era, because it's been 6 years since I downloaded it. Maybe eventually I'll download that, but frankly, the 2015 version is more than adequate. So that would be how you acquire the desktop application. To use the online version, I will be totally honest with you, I initially, or basically up until just a few minutes before I started recording this video, my experience of the online application has been pretty poor. When I first tried it out, I think around 2018 or 19, I was pretty aggravated with it. I didn't last more than 30 minutes on there before I gave up. And the reason why is because the tool selection was terrible. There was no cross functionality of keyboard shortcuts between the desktop application and the web-based, browser-based application. And my prime time efficiency of using any program like that is using keyboard shortcuts, and if I don't have those, then projects are going to take me orders of magnitude longer. So why bother, right? Well, I went ahead and tried it in preparation for this video and found out, much to my pleasure, that they actually made some substantial improvements in the last few years. So we'll go ahead and show you. So we go to your little sign in there, My Apps, go to My Products, and you can see that we already have registered sort of for Sketchup free. If we hit the upgrade button there, then that would be a paid account to get the pro version. We don't need that, so we're just going to do View Included Applications. You can explore some of these other options here. You got 3D Warehouse. That's basically a good option if you want to utilize projects or drawings that other people have created and uploaded to this 3D Warehouse. It's all free. You can sort of draw a house and then go to a 3D Warehouse and look for a couch, and then you can just go ahead and throw a couch into your house, to kind of get design or remodeling ideas. You can go in there and find a Workbench, so on and so forth. And then down here we have a mobile viewer for Android. That would be pretty handy if you draw up plans for something like a Workbench, and you create within that plan a cut list of all the material that you're going to need, which I did on a separate cabinet drawing. I'm going to do the same thing on this one because it'll make workflow much more efficient. But you can, because it's all browser based, you can pull that up on your mobile device at the hardware store, and you've got your shopping list right there. So we're going to go for SketchUp for web, freemium here. Launch, give it a second, drink a little bit of tea. Open recovered model, no. Start modeling. Give it a second here. Alright, so this is what you start with. Instead of in the desktop application that I showed you the other day, where you had this old dude, your architect here, the Trimble version here starts us off with this chap who's rocking a pair of like rubber coated leather boots here, a sweet ukulele, a premium designer watch, and a stellar t-shirt with a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Stegosaurus rubber band on his wrist. And let's not forget his magnificent facial hair, the likes of which I will probably never achieve because I do not grow facial hair very well. Anyhow, let's go ahead and we'll just leave dude here. Using the keyboard shortcuts that I am so well familiarized with from the desktop version, we're going to press R to get a rectangle. Look, it works just like it does on the desktop. We can draw our square out like this, and we can type in 3.5, 3.5, and that gets us the footprint of a 4x4. You can use P, push, and bring that up, like let's say 40 inches. We can select that, right click, make component, leg, and move control to copy and move it. We can use the directional arrows, the left arrow along the Y axis here, we can move it 40 inches, let's say. Whoops, let's hit the space bar, hold down control, select this guy, M, control to copy both of these, click, and we'll use the right arrow for locking along the red or X axis and go another 40 inches, say. And there you go, look, you're already building a table here. Let's do a simple R. And you got a 3/4 inch top there. What we're doing now is dangerous because we're creating intersecting faces that are not independently declared as components. But I don't care in this drawing because I'm just going to delete all this. I'm just kind of playing around here. So we're going to do 5.5. No, let's not do 5.5. Let's do 3.5, 0.75. This would be like an apron here. Yeah, everything, as far as I can tell, is identical to the desktop application. So I'm super happy with that. I will probably end up using this more in the future. Anyhow, figured I'd go ahead and walk you through how to access SketchUp for yourself. Kind of cool to have this dude here because you can kind of get an idea for the size relationship of that workbench. You can see it's awful low in relation to his elbows. You would have to bend over quite a bit to work on something on that table. Anywho, let's go ahead and go from here and jump into our video for today, further progress on our garage workbench. Hey there, real quick, I just did a little experimentation because, you know, I don't prepare that well for videos. I found out something pretty phenomenal with the web-based version of SketchUp. Something else that makes me love it. We can open My Device, Garage Workbench. Check that out. I did not have to do anything. I am using, you know, this garage workbench has been drawn in a 6-year-old version of SketchUp, and it just didn't even, you know, no questions asked here. It didn't hiccup at all. As you can see, I gave myself a little concrete floor. But anyhow, this is cutting to the chase, or getting ahead of ourselves rather. So let's go ahead and get back into today's video, where you'll see us get up to this point. Alright, we're back. So, in the off camera I should say, I went ahead and added paneling on the back. It's just 1/2-inch plywood. I extended this shelf in the bottom here all the way over because, yeah, maybe I can go ahead and utilize that space. And as discussed, I finished all of the mortise and tenon joinery. So that is all done. So I'm going to finish the paneling along this back wall here, panel on this face here, and we're going to leave this face open because, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do another 4-foot extension to this to give it a total of 12 feet. But because of material expenses, again, 12-foot boards get kind of pricey. We will do that in a separate section. So we'll go ahead and continue with this one, and we'll cover the 4-foot bit later. So right now at this point, this cabinet here, or this whole workbench, is all one group, except for these panels. I'll add them in a little bit, but right now, if I select this and move it, those panels stay put and this moves. So we're going to keep it that way for the sake of convenience as we make the rest of the panels here. So we're going to go ahead and, panels are real easy. It's just doing a rectangle down to here, and then we use the push-pull feature, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch like we discussed. So I'm going to show you kind of the importance of declaring objects as either groups or components. And the reason why is fundamentally because if you try to move things around on a surface that is not declared an entire entity, then the interface between two faces, let's just do an example here. Here's a rectangle. The interface can get messed up. It can think that these are two things that are supposed to be stuck together, and when you try to move one, it'll start stretching the other one in ways that are frankly not really possible. So we'll kind of bring that out, and let's go ahead and select that and move it. See what's happening here. Now let's try move. if I selected this when it was its own entity, then the whole thing would move as one unit. Similarly, oops, you can see we got some kind of wonky business going on here because the model does not know what face belongs to what face. They're effectively welded together. Yeah. See, so that's why you need to declare objects as entities, because if you don't, the program simply cannot tell what is independent of another. Two faces will be assumed to be a single object. So we'll use Control Z here, get rid of all that. And now to declare this as an object, with this out of the way, we're just going to move this like 2 feet out of the way, come up on a top view here, and we can select this without getting anything else in the way. Right click, make component, panel C, create, grab our bucket, paint it, and we can move this back where it belongs. Real simple. Same principle applies here. Now we can take this, and rinse and repeat. Rotate our camera so we can draw it straight. Yeah, that looks pretty good now. So we're going to hold down the Control key and select our panels. Right click, make group. So now everything is included in the group. Alright. Similarly, on the subject of the tiered structure of, or the hierarchy of components, groups, etc., when nothing is selected, obviously nothing is selected, we can select this with just a single click, and that selects the entire workbench. Then if we double click, that breaks it down so we can select independent components of the framework and all that. The more you double click, the further you go in that hierarchy. Right now, these were considered a group before the panels were considered a group. And then if we double click again, now we have access to the individual components of the framework, and we have access to the individual entities that are the panels here. And you just double click a whole bunch outside, and now everything's back to normal. Alright, so now we need to do cabinets here. So what is a cabinet? It's basically a box with doors on it. So all that really means is we just need to put some doors on here. and we'll come up with a face frame system, because I'd like to do drawers along the top, kind of like desk drawers, and then it'll be divided where I have swing open cabinet doors down there, just to help organize between some smaller items on the top and larger items like tools, power tools, etc., that can go in the bulk down there. So frankly, the only type of cabinetry that I have experience with is face frame style. So if you've watched all my videos, which I certainly hope you have, face frame cabinets are, I made an example of one of those. I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. Back in the fall, so around November of 2020, I was quarantined because I tested positive for coronavirus, but I had no symptoms of anything whatsoever. So the result of that was 2 weeks of paid vacation where I was quarantined inside my house. Well, I had already started building a cabinet, face frame style, very large cabinet, and I took advantage of the 2-week vacation essentially to finish the project and record a bunch of YouTube videos on it. So I hope you check that out. Again, I'm really proud of how it turned out. It's a friggin' rock solid cabinet, grossly overbuilt. I definitely could have done it with 1/2-inch plywood instead of 3/4, but yeah, anyway, different subject. So we're going to go ahead and do a face frame here. We effectively have a top style. We're not going to have a style for the bottom because that's going to be the doors that open up there. So all we need to do, sorry, I got the terminology backwards. I believe that, yeah, the top are rails, and the vertical components which we need to add are stiles. So the horizontal are rails, just like rails on a train, and the vertical, again, are stiles. So we're going to make the stiles and the lower rail out of 1x material. So that's going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, and we're probably going to do like 1x3 material, I think, for that. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and move along on this first example, because basically all we're doing is just drawing rectangles at this point. It's not going to be any mortise and tenon or anything like that. The face frame for this cabinet will be anchored together using Kreg pocket hole screws. If you've never heard of a Kreg pocket hole system and you do woodworking, you should check it out. It is a very, very, very valuable tool. So I'll be right back. Alright, we're back at it. As you can see, we've gotten quite a bit done, pretty short period of time. Again, this is really simple. It's just drawing rectangles and getting things spaced the way that you want. So this section here, the short bit, we've got 2 drawers that are going to be about 8 inches tall or deep, I guess you could say, and 18 inches wide. And then you've got the larger doors down here. What is the height of these? That's 21 3/4 on those, and that's also 18 inches. So for the drawers that we actually make, this space is 8 inches for the total depth of the drawer. However, you're going to lose, I think, like 3/4 of an inch or so of that, maybe more. I can't remember. Some of that space is taken up by the drawer hardware, the slides, and of course making sure that there is ample clearance so that the door or the drawer does not get stuck coming in and out of here. But anyway, it's going to be a substantially deep drawer, but we're dealing with a workshop here, so you could have large objects that you want to fit up here. That has pretty substantial capacity. Then coming over here, I think I might split one of these in half because these Mamma Jammas are, what are they, 30 inches? Yeah, that's 30 inches. That's a pretty massive drawer. So I think I'm going to split this one in half and leave this one as a really wide, humongous drawer. Again, same dimension. These are 8 inches tall. And the doors down here, they're going to be effectively the same. Um, what was our total width here? You guys with me? Yeah, that was 18 inches. Here we're talking 30 inches. That'd be a 15-inch wide door. I think that's reasonable enough. But we'll go ahead and install a large style going all the way down. Basically take a copy of this guy right here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Everything else here has already been declared as a component. So we don't have to worry about faces interfering with one another. So to make things a little bit cleaner, again, these are 30 inches, so we're going to come to 15 inches. And then come 1 3/4 inches that way. I'll do a rectangle here, which will be 2.5, no, sorry, 3.5. So it's going to be 2.5 tall. And we'll select this, edit it. I forgot to do this. I should have done this to begin with, but anyhow, we're going to push that in by 0.75. Deselect. Oops. Delete this guy right here. Wrong. You gotta love Control Z. And we're just hitting the delete key here. What's going on? This was supposed to have. There. I don't know why that was misbehaving. Just remember, Control Z or undo is definitely your friend. Get rid of that wire. Control D. Now we have a gap there, so we can just take this and Control. There we have it. So now, what's this total width now? 13.25. It's totally reasonable. Whoops. Here, we're going to leave this one, so we need to make that unique. Forgot to do that beforehand. So now you see in real time what happens when you forget that. Yeah, so we'll just push this over. And we'll get rid of this wire here. Good as new. Alright. So to recap, you know what, we're going to have just so we don't have ridiculously huge doors, we're going to have a style just coming from the center of this down. So we will leave that as a solid piece. So let's go ahead and take this, copy it and move it off. And we will shrink it down. make it unique first. And I'll shrink it down. So that we're in line with that face right there. Put it there, and now we just got to find the center. So what do we have with that 30 inches? No, it's 32.5 inches. No, sorry, that's 30 inches in between. So 15 would be the center minus 1 3/4. So 15 minus 1 is 14 minus 3/4 is 13.25. Oops, 3.25. Now we take this guy and we move it to that guide point right there. And if my math is right, we got 13.25. 13.25. Hey, I can do math. Alright. So that's our face frame. It's really looking like something now. So at this point, we need to come up with drawers and doors for the face frame here. And in addition to that, we're going to need to install a framework for the drawers to ride along, because and I made this mistake last time when I made my cabinet back in November. I had all of this, all the face frame and everything in mind. However, when I built it, I realized that I did not account for having something along here that the drawer slides would ride along. So we need to incorporate that. We also need to incorporate the length of the drawer slides. There are options for that. The ones that I use, I think, were 20 inches or something along those lines. It's probably what I'm going to do. So what that means is that 20 inches from the front here, I'm going to have something to support the drawer slides. There's going to have to be another framework, perhaps tied into this panel here, and then we need to have some horizontal bits here, some framework here. But we'll go ahead and call this the end of this chapter on designing our workbench, and the next section we will cover making our drawers. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video where we continue along on this project.